This is delicious, honey.
A little dry.
Just say something nice.
It's Christmas.
I hate Christmas!
What was that?
Saint Nicholas is not coming. Instead, a darker spirit, Krampus, comes not to give, but to take.
Hello, I'm the Universal Critic. I talk about whatever I want, whenever I want. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you all. In light of the holiday season, it's about only natural to talk about the new holiday horror comedy, Krampus. Loosely inspired by medieval folklore, Krampus tells the story of a dysfunctional family on Christmas Eve that has most definitely lost the Christmas spirit. To them, especially the mother and father, played by Toni Collette and Adam Scott, the holidays are nothing more than a nightmarish chore where they're stuck with their irritating relatives for 2 days. And despite the efforts of his kindly grandmother, their son, Max, played by MJ Anthony, finally gives in and tears up his letter to Santa, renouncing Christmas and his family to some extent. With that last twinge of holiday cheer gone, the family and the whole neighborhood is suddenly besieged by Krampus, a spirit meant to punish the naughty on Christmas and his demonic little helpers. As I said before, this film is based loosely around ancient German folktales of Krampus. Essentially, each year Santa Claus would give toys to the nice children, whilst Krampus would punish or even abduct the naughty ones. This movie builds on that concept to a much more over-the-top, but still logical extreme, and by bringing the story into the modern day, it offers for some interesting, if very obvious, social satire. The first 10 to 15 minutes of this film really capture the ugly cynicism that can permeate a lot of people's minds this time of year. Aside from the family being utterly awful to each other and largely insufferable at first, we also see the rampant consumerism that is all too common around Christmas time. The opening scene is a montage of a riot at a department store, with "It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas" playing over it. The message is indeed obvious, but the film's heart is certainly in the right place with that, and the scene is legitimately funny and painfully accurate. And the film does a good job of showing us this is not what Christmas is supposed to be about. Instead, it's shown as a truly wonderful holiday that is being drowned out in a series of commercialized madness. I'll admit, aside from the son and the grandmother, I honestly hated the family at the beginning of this film. David Koechner and Allison Tolman as the aunt and uncle, not to mention their obnoxiously bratty children, were especially irritating, and the great aunt, played by Conchata Ferrell, was no peach either. Adam Scott and Toni Collette weren't exactly saints, although I could sympathize with them a little bit more, as they did have to deal with their irritating extended family at an already stressful time of year. I get that they're playing up their awfulness for laughs and to hammer home how much they've lost the Christmas spirit, but there were a couple of times where it felt a tad excessive. Thankfully, that's only for the first 15 minutes or so, and when Krampus begins his assault, they all mostly put aside their bitchiness and work together during the crisis. As for the horror side of this film, I think it manages to blend both the fun and the legit horror pretty well. The conceit of this movie is handled pretty nicely. It's not just that the kids stop believing in Santa Claus, or even that the family is at each other's throats. After all, there are millions of people around the world who hate Christmas. What makes these assholes so special? We see that this is on a much grander scale, as if Krampus only comes when holiday cheer is lost en masse. And that's definitely the vibe you get from this film, so the whole premise doesn't feel particularly forced. And speaking of Krampus himself, the largely practical special effects are legitimately terrifying. Krampus has a fantastic design. He's this big, massive, goat-like demon with a black hood and covered in rattling iron chains. It's just fantastic. And the designs of his helpers are just the right balance of both hilarious and frightening concoctions of hell, and there are some great one-liners during the fight scenes to keep us from taking all of this too seriously. Overall, I give Krampus a high big screen rating. It's a fun, frightening little bit of Yuletide fear, and probably the best holiday horror film since Gremlins, which I'm certain this film was trying to imitate. This is the Universal Critic saying you better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout, and after seeing this movie, you will most certainly know why.
Round the world, it's all the same. Children freeze when they hear my name.
Krampus, please don't beat me so. But do I listen? Sadly, no.